Hello, everyone. Welcome to another show of OnForm podcast brought to you by Formfunction, hosted by Duel of Doves, Omar and Luke. And today we have an awesome guest that goes by the name of Vaper. Vaper, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you very much for the invite. I appreciate it so much. How is
Man,
everyone doing?
Definitely.
we're good. We're good. This has been a much anticipated conversation. I did actually mention to you before we recorded that I'll probably hand over the mic for you to kind of introduce yourself, but I probably want you to introduce your look a little bit more because I think that will tie into what we talk about later. So talk us through what sort of getup you've got on and why you chose that type of style to kind of represent yourself with.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much this mixed media digital artist who makes portraits. And that's one of my signature things is this duct taped raw look. So I thought instead of all the garbage and clutter behind me, I'm gonna do a little like tape down green screen stuff. Oh, I don't have arms, look. Anyways, and then with this to go little Vaper style shades. I don't know. It's just something that I made in like 2.5 minutes just before the pod.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, when we first jumped on, we saw you picked up the duct tape. It was so cool to see that real duct tape, considering it's in all of your moldings and sculptures and stuff like that. Really, really cool to see.
You know, it's like a bit poetic. It's like duct tape can fix anything. Can it fix a broken person or like, your personality? Let's find out, like duct tape everything.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Well, you've kind of halfway there, so I guess I'll just continue introducing yourself as you were.
Yeah. Basically, I'm an artist for about 15, 16 years-ish now. And I started traditionally with charcoal drawings, all the good stuff. But I've been just studying, and I was stuck in this place for like 10 years at least, where I just studied things and like not making any like, real my stuff, just drawing what I see. And then I got introduced to digital art when I could actually afford to get into that. And that's changed everything for me. So that's when my little journey really started, like 5 years ago ish.
Yeah, wow. So prior to that, it was more traditional art that you were studying, or like actually academically studying it?
No, I'm self-taught, but I try to follow the way, how they learn in academies. I had a friend who was in uni for sculpting.
Yeah.
So he was teaching me like what he's been learning there. I unfortunately could never afford going to like art uni or anything education. So
and dude,
I did it myself,
And like seeing your stuff, man, you're probably better off not doing that shit because you're breaking so many rules, but it just works in your style. It just works. Like things are just so unexpected. The first piece I ever bought off you was just like, what the fuck did I just witness? I'm gonna go.
Oh, was that the war one, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm so proud of that.
Oh yeah, Omar showed me that one. I was like, who the fuck is this Vaper guy? Like, I gotta go say hello. And then straight away I went into your DM. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, just sort of said hello. It was like, it was captivating, that piece.
That was my first piece ever as well. I don't have much soul in my wallet because I was just kind of banking some money off like Milktoast royalties at the time. So I hadn't actually put any money into my soul wallet. It was just stuff that's just been stacking on. And I'm like, all right, I've got about 5 soul in this. I'm going to go all in and win this guy's piece. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
For sure.
Cool, man. So.
Oh, 1 second. Bit of pause.
All good.
Thank you. Sorry, it's coffee time as well.
Oh, you should have kept that in. That's all right.
Oh, yeah, we can keep that. Yeah, we can keep that. That's all good.
No,
sure.
That's like boss stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I
just
know I'm totally. I
asked
know I'm
Cosmic
totally.
just before
Oh yeah.
for a quick coffee, so she was so kind to bring it in for me.
Oh,
She
her
is
stuff
very
is
kind.
amazing. Her stuff is amazing as well. Like
Really cool.
that. Yeah, I really love her stuff. I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here a little bit. I'm just going to keep going because I think we'll keep that in anyways. I know I'm jumping the gun and we're going a little bit further probably into the interview, but you mentioned something really interesting just then around how you started off looking at other people's styles and like sort of, I'm adding words now, but it sounded like sort of learning and mimicking other people's styles as you sort of got to your own sort of point. But 5 years ago, when you found that the digital side and you sort of found your own style, like can you just tell us a little bit about that little part there of like what was that, what did that moment feel like in particular when you realized, holy shit, this is me, this is not like I'm not imitating anymore?
Yeah, it was like exciting. It was exciting but scary because just the tools, there are so many possibilities, it's even if you just open up Photoshop, you get like how many tools there? You got like 50, you're looking at 50 things at least.
Yeah.
Just on, and you didn't open any little tabs or anything. And I was just like dumbstruck, like, what am I doing here? How do I make something out of this? And then, yeah, of course, I had my influences. I had my favorite artists on Instagram. And then I just started imitating more like, their style. Of course, with my own subjects. And from there, I don't even know, somehow I had a couple hiatuses. So I always like done art for a couple, like I done it for a year. Then I was like, I had enough for a while. So I took like a month off of it. And then I carried on. I even like sold my tablet. I'm like, I had enough of this. This is like too hard. And then like a month later, I'm like, no, it's just, I need to do it. I need to create. There's something there I need to say.
Yeah.
And just bought another tablet. Let's do this again. Give this another try. And then got to that point where it became this, you know what, let's see if I can do art daily for like a year. If I can do it for a year, I'm going to be fine. So I just started doing that. Like, doesn't even matter. It didn't have to be my pieces. I done a lot of like perspective studies on the iPad and like really technical, like, see-through drawings and like trying to master it, and then just done it for a year. I done like character design on a different kind of Instagram account. I've all sorts of stuff. Like, it doesn't even, you wouldn't even recognize it now. And it's like a bit, I would be a bit ashamed to show it even because,
I'll be
but without that work, you probably wouldn't be where you are now. So you kind of need to get, you get the shit ideas out before you,
Yeah. But then I had this streak when I was like, okay, now it's been like a year. I've been doing art like daily, even if I just drew a doodle. That's, I think, the most important, like, consistency.
Yeah.
So if you can keep it up consistently, it's just gonna start something. It's just gonna start the whole process.
So the motivation came back to you after taking some time off, just because you felt the urge to still create and produce work. Were you?
Yeah, I've always been a creative dude. So I had this, like, I had things to say, and I always had the question that how to say it, and I always got back to, okay, it has to be art.
Yep. And were you showing?
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's fine. By the way, Vaper is drinking cider and coffee at the same time, and it's probably like
it's
not even 11 o'clock in the morning. I love it.
No, I'm a very nervous person, like anxious. So it's just like one side to calm it, It's all good.
And the other side to boost the energy with the coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that cider from your 9 to 5? Is that from your job?
No, I'm not drinking anything from my job. It's
no, we'll get into that. Dude,
I see that enough.
About that, his job. yeah. So with when you took some time off and then you got back into art, were you kind of just keeping it to yourself, creating by yourself, and kind of keeping the work to yourself as well, or were you actually showing some family and friends and your partner at the time? How did that process kind of take place? How did you go about maintaining
I
that
kept
motivation
it.
for you? You
I
kept it to
kept it
yourself.
all to myself. Yeah,
Mm, mm,
everything.
mm.
It's as I said, I'm a nervous person. I'm
Yep,
always anxious, like about showing stuff. Like it's a little piece of me
of
I'm
course,
showing to people.
of
So
course.
back then, I think it took me like a year and a half into digital art by the time I made an Instagram
Hmm.
and like put my first piece to Facebook to my family and friends to like, oh, this is what I did.
Yeah,
And then it was this a bit of a lukewarm response, like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, people actually like it. Let's do
yeah,
more.
yeah.
And yeah, so I didn't really show it, and I was like, I always still get this little, you know, fear in me when I show a piece, when I'm like tweeting
Yeah.
it or minting it, that damn, how is this
100%.
gonna come down? Are they gonna understand it the way I intended it, or they just gonna
Absolutely.
misinterpret?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can totally relate. I think people that I haven't met in IRL probably understand my work more than people who are close to me, and specifically family. There's probably family of mine that don't even know that I'm a photographer, because it's not something I talk about.
Yeah,
I keep it very dear to me and it's close to me because it's just my creative outlet that I share with a select few people that understand what I'm doing. But similar to you, it's like my vulnerability. I don't want to share that with people. It's just I'm in a state of just like naked, and I don't want to be out there in the world. So I totally get that. Now, how would you describe? So as an artist, are you a digital artist? Are you a multi-disciplinary artist? How would you describe yourself if you were to kind of be at NYC and NFT NY right now? If someone asked you, how would you introduce yourself?
well, firstly, I wish I get such a massive
I know,
FOMO
right?
about all the pictures and
Yeah,
everything.
so
You're stuck here
Jesus.
talking to us, man, instead of being over there.
Yeah. Anyways, I think I would describe myself as multidisciplinary. I'm making music as well as that piece you collected from me. I made all the sound design and music for that. So that's another interest of mine. And yeah, no real traditional art anymore. Like
Mm,
I'm not drawing with charcoal. I don't like to get dirty like that anymore.
yep,
But I think it translates that roughness like comes over. But
absolutely.
yeah,
Yep. And that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because it's not just art you're creating the soundtrack for the movement. You're creating the soundtrack for the vibe and the feel of the pieces that you're producing. And to me, that just blew my mind up, because when you and I were talking for a while, right? And I was asking you questions constantly about like, what does that mean? And what was going through your mind? Because I'm just a nerd like that. I want to know more. And then when he told me you even created the music for it, I was like, wow, because that music is quite intense. The piece I collected from you. And then you created another piece where there was a character running, and the
yeah,
way that character was running, it looked like they were either tired or they were injured. And I remember I was just like drilling you with questions like, are they injured? Are they tired? Are they
yeah,
like, is something wrong with them? And it's like, yeah. It's kind of like giving up on time. And I was like, whoa, okay. And I found that just mind blowing, because even the music to that was amazing.
yeah, yeah. So I'm trying. Basically, when I start, I've got like an idea of what I want to see, what I want the final piece. That piece, the time one, that was pretty much like running out of time. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like in the literal sense, he's like running out of time.
Yeah.
So that went through like it looks completely different than it looked in my head when I first imagined it. But
Mm.
also I had with that piece, I had the music in my mind like right away. So I started with that and then I fit everything around that. So it's
Also, you
It's
started off with this with the music first, and then the visuals
yeah,
followed later. Oh wow!
yeah,
Okay.
because I wanted the running to go on beat with the music. So
Mm.
it has this little like music video vibe. Like I grew up
Yeah.
on MTV and such, so I'm really much into that
Yeah,
kind of vibe.
amazing. You mentioned earlier on that sort of note of the ordering of like, with that particular piece, the music came first. Like you mentioned a little bit earlier of like, you still have things to say and you want to say it through your art. Like when you go into a new piece, do you have a clear vision of what you want to say, or does it sort of come further to light as you create? Like how does that message come to be, I guess?
Yeah, good question. It's a process. It's I've got the picture, yeah, but you know how it's like a blurry one. It's like it's dark and someone just flicks out the light like suddenly, and then you can't see, you just see outlines first, and then you see more and more as your eyes getting used to the sudden light. So it's a bit like that. I've got like a subject. I've got the subject for the next portrait, for example, right now, that I'm like conceptualizing. And it's like, let's say it's addiction. And then what fits the term of addiction, or what, what falls into that category? What makes up an addiction? Like, what can you be addicted on? Like, how am I going to put this in motion? Like, what's going to be animated about the whole thing? So all these little things, and then I get like a vague picture of what I want. I make usually a sketch of it, like real bad ones, like just doodle style with arrows pointing that to, so I can recognize what I actually drew. So
first you use paper, and then you move on to like Photoshop and.
It depends. Sometimes I'm at work, so I'm driving the truck, then I pull over. It's like I'm just driving the truck in like on site. So I've got like 10 minutes downtime.
You just indicate and just pull over.
Yeah, just flip a paper over and just sketch down the doodle real quick, man. And I'm like, okay, that's all right. And
that's for later.
Yeah, and then sometimes I'm home, so I just like open up Photoshop and just sketch it in there. Sometimes I don't even work from a sketch. I just like wing it.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Your style, your style of art is very distinctive. Like when you see a vapor, that's a vapor. There's no mistaking that. So what I want to understand is, how have you developed that style, that color palette, that distinctive kind of sharpness of like some of your portrait work? Like there's some sharp features of like the nose, the chin, even like the way they're kind of facing, if they're facing kind of on a 45-degree angle or looking dark, like it's quite distinctive when you see a vapor piece of art. How have you kind of developed that? Is it just what you like producing, or are you deliberately trying to work to a certain theme that you've created for yourself?
It's a bit of both. I think it's a big percentage that I'm like, I feel like it's a strong look. So I'm gravitating towards that kind of composition, like close up in your face. It's also about like emotions and feelings. So I like to bring it close, and like from I think the 10th one, I even brought it closer, and they like leaning in because it's getting more personal, getting more to the core of like, I guess, who I am or who we are. I'm not sure. Like, I don't think I can talk for everyone. It's more like about me. Let's be real. And then the style, it's funny. Style is funny because I haven't had a style really. At least I didn't work towards it, or I didn't notice it. I just done a little bit of everything. I've done like 2D, then I started 3D, collage, all that stuff. I've been through it. And then they just all be in this mishmash. If you go on my Instagram, you can roll back all the way to, I think, 2017, maybe. Pardon me. So there was a point, like I think a year ago. So I've been into NFTs, and I've been talking to people. I was on Ethereum, so I was talking to my friends that why is that you can sell out a collection and I can't? Where is the difference? And they like, well, it's probably to do with the fact that you get a collection that looks like this, a collection that looks like that, and even in that collection there are like inconsistencies, so there is no recognition, like brand recognition. So I'm like, that's interesting, because I've got like so many styles, I feel like. So what if I would like try and mash it all together, like real violently, just put it all in a blender and like and then that's pretty much what happened. And
I
then
love
I
that,
had
man.
an Ethereum project. It's called Tiny Face. Can I swear? I can't. Can I? I shouldn't really.
No, go
So
for
it's
it,
called Tiny Face Fuckers, and
Okay.
it's this cartoonish characters, but it already has these little half tone and like, you know, the diagonal half tones and newspaper cutout and cartoony characters and stuff. And then that was around the time of like last October or November or something like that. And I already had like an idea of like a next project, because I've been in this mixed media, animation, drawing, 3D, all mash it together already. So I'm like, what if I would go like try and make a collage, but try to make a collage in 3D, like from my own assets, like use my own drawings, like a piece of paper, like nailed on the head or something. And then so I done the first portrait, and that's one of my friends was like, oh, why don't you like try Solana? Why don't you give it a try? It might work for you. I'm like, you know what? Like, what can I lose? So that's how it happened, that I think I dropped portrait one right on my birthday in January. The first
January
portrait
of this
on my,
year?
yeah.
Yep. Okay.
This January I dropped the first portrait, and then I've seen that people liking that, and that just, I'm like, I love to do these because I get very short attention span. So with this, I just get to spend like, you know, I do an hour drawing and then I do an hour 3D, so I can jump around programs, and I'm like, you know, satisfied.
Cool. Yeah. Before we get more
Amazing.
into your NFT journey so far, because it's been fairly successful, and I've really enjoyed seeing you flourish and kind of put your mark in this one-of-one space. I want to go back a little bit and kind of understand Vaper and how creativity kind of started, how creativity started kind of building up in your character as a person, what influences you had growing up and things like that. If you can kind of take us back and tell us a little bit more about that, if that's cool.
Sure. So it started like my creative journey. Like, I think everyone who's on this field starts pretty much in school, like primary school. So I really, my favorite class was like art class, and I had the luck to have really I loved it. I had really good teachers. They just let us loose. Just go.
See, that's the
like
key. Having good teachers that can really like nourish your skill set and kind of like give you confidence. It's key. Yeah, I had a shit teacher that was really strict, so I wasn't able to have fun. But yeah, sorry, going back to
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. That's the worst thing, when you get a passion towards something, for example, and then you getting it crushed by like rules and strict stuff. Horrible.
Yeah,
I had one teacher who had like, her car was painted like flowers and stuff. She hand painted it. I'm like, how ridiculous. That's amazing. Like, I was like 10, my little mind was blown.
Yeah.
So I've started this these extracurriculars. Did I say that right? I'm not sure. Anyway,
perfect. You said it perfectly. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm improving, seems like by the minute. So yeah, I started going on those drawing, and then my teacher suggested my parents that it might be a good idea to consider high school that's mainly art oriented.
Mm.
And then my
So
parents.
where were you born and where did you grow up?
So I born in Hungary.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
In a tiny town next to a
Mhm.
lake. So yeah, that's the origin story.
Yeah, awesome.
But there are a lot of picturesque places, like a lot of places to inspire and
Mhm.
all.
Yeah.
Like an artistic person, it's great.
Awesome. Man.
So yeah, my parents didn't really think it's a good idea, so they didn't send me to art school.
Mhm.
So I got I got a bit distant from art, and for a while that was it. But then, as teenagers going through puberty, I was rebelling. So there came like hip hop and graffiti and
Yes.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how I first started like really drawing my own stuff with
You're just
graffiti,
tagging on
with like
walls, causing havoc.
tagging.
Yeah.
Yeah, like got caught on a bus for tagging, and like
What was your
this
tag?
gonna be
Did you have a
it was
specific tag?
yeah, it was Rowan, like ROAN. I don't
ROAN.
know what it means. It doesn't mean anything in Hungarian. It pretty much means like running or like
Okay.
runner.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. You should create a
Just
collection
omitting
about that actually. Pay homage to your upbringing.
Yeah, because that type would
Yeah.
come together really well, actually. Like,
Yeah. 4
think
letters.
about, yeah, because and even just think about your type control, like the way you lay type is just so on point. So like, yeah, imagining how you could put that tag together now with the skills you have now, like it would be,
Oh yeah.
yeah, there's something there for sure.
That's a series, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what, like, that's how I learned like resilience, like those, that when you get caught and then, oh, I shouldn't continue because it's wrong what I'm doing.
Mhm.
But then, like my parents talk to the cops and like, oh, it's all good. And then I go home and I'm like, oh, should I like toss all my drawings out? And like I'm going through them, like I had a shoebox full of like, I don't know, 500 drawings.
Yeah.
Of like
Yeah.
just typo stuff, and like realizing that, no, you know what, I'm just gonna do it harder now. I just need to do it better.
Yes.
Like just not getting caught. That's the main thing here. Not like stopping. So I just
Were you doing like were you just doing like just spray paint, or were you actually doing like proper like bolds and coloring in and whatnot? Like what?
coloring in. I was doing like, we were bombing. We were bombing
Bombing,
all
yeah,
the time. Yeah, like out
I've
and
always
about,
wondered,
edge of town.
I've always wondered just on that, how does that work? Like in the essence of not getting caught, because that would take time. So how does it actually, and I'm assuming it's at nighttime. So how does the lighting work? Like, how do you actually achieve that level when there's so much pressure of someone coming and, like I imagine it would be super thrilling, but can you just talk about that little snippet there of like, how do you actually pull that off?
Oh, it's luck, but I didn't pull it off for much longer. I like after this first, I got caught first, and then after a week, I got caught again. But like, it was like such a. I have to tell this. It's such a hilarious story. It's like we out on the edge of town, like bombing this. Like it's a soundproofing wall next to like a highway. So we bomb in there, just practicing, and then my friend looks to the right and there is a dog running towards us. He's like, shit, just run. Like the dude is coming as well with like a club chasing us.
Oh, a
And
dude
it was
and
like
a dog both chasing you guys.
Yeah, but it was
Wow.
like, I thought it's like a docile dog, it looked like harmless.
Yeah.
So, but we like, shit, we can't get caught. Like, let's run. So I start running, but it was like a really wet like week, so there was a lot of rain. So
no.
all over was mud, and I had these brand new Etnies shoes I just had like 3 days ago, And I start running, and like first step, my back foot, like I step out the shoes and it's left there in the mud.
Oh no.
And like I look back, I reach for it, but the dog is going for my hand. I'm like, hell no. So we booted it, and like I've been waiting on this, like there's like a water store in tower thing. And I was waiting on like the top of that hill for like 2 hours for my mate to go back home and fetch a pair of shoes for me. And it's like, yeah, it's so that was basically my career. I'm like, I can't handle this. It's too much, like, too much heat for me. So I kept drawing. There was this silly app on like a Flash app where you could like do graffitis. Like it was like, you had the trains and everything as a backdrop, and like you just like spray painted on the. It was pretty good. So I was just messing around in that, and then came music, and I stopped all visual stuff and just focused on that.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Well, keep going, my friend. We like music.
Yeah. So that's started like hip hop. I was in love when my friend first showed me. I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like first like Hungarian stuff, because I didn't know English back then. But like I'm not much better now, but at least I'm like
Dude, what are you talking about? You're fluent.
Doing a little bit better. But that's what 10 years of living in the UK does with you.
Yeah. So talk us through music a little bit. Did you start producing? Were you just kind of discovering artists? What were you doing in music?
Yeah, I started with both. I started rapping and like instrumentals, and it was really bad.
Oh, cool.
So it was like
I'd love
really
to hear
bad.
some stuff, man.
What was your rap name?
Maybe one. No, maybe one day. Okay, maybe I send you a link over on Twitter or something.
Yeah.
Definitely, please. Yes, please.
What was your MC name?
It's actually a pretty famous name. I chose Rubik.
Okay,
yeah, because I was like already in this artistic mind, like and like, oh, that's like I could like pair that with like the lyrics I'm writing, so it's like a bit of a like, you need to think about what I'm saying. So anyways, it's like, teenage stuff. So yeah, then I met with one of my best friends now when I was about 15 or 16. And then he was more into it. He was more in the higher circles of like hip hop in Hungary. So that brought me into like deeper, and he showed me a lot of things. He taught me how to actually use like a tracker, because back then we wrote everything in trackers. There weren't like many DAWs and stuff like that back then. So I was in love with it. I was like making music, writing lyrics all the time, just so I can meet up with my buddies. And I'm like, oh, check what I wrote, check this style.
And throughout this time, what are your parents thinking? Because first your teachers are suggesting to them that you should go to an art school, and then they refuse that. Then you started acting up, or maybe I'm adding a little bit more to the narrative, but you started tagging and bombing and getting in trouble.
No, I was acting up.
Okay. And now you're getting into like hip hop and rap music, which naturally doesn't have, a good connotation to it, or, it's always seen as bad or rebellious or whatever. So how were your parents kind of figuring that shit out as you were kind of going through your phases? Were they okay with it? Were you just like, what the hell are you doing? How were they kind of responding to your activities?
They were pretty neutral. They didn't really like support any artistic endeavors I had. So it was like, it was pretty easy to just coast by, and they didn't even care what I'm doing. Like they were never like, oh, show me what you've been doing. It was just like, oh, he's doing something, so let him be.
He's busy. He's not getting in trouble. That's the best part. Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And so this way they just left me to do my own stuff. That was a
Uh-huh.
good thing, but the no support was a bit of a shit. But hey,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
holding it against them, busy.
No, definitely. All right. Before we move on, and before I forget, 3 top hip hop or rap artists. Who are your 3
Right now,
right now?
Right
Kendrick,
now or all time?
all time.
Go all time. All time, I reckon.
All time?
Fuck yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's go
Okay.
all time.
Okay, Kendrick,
Yes.
number 1.
Thank you. I love you even more for saying that.
He's just special. Always when he drops something, it's special. It's like this, no question. He always
No.
innovates, always brings something new.
Oh yeah, the fact he doesn't need to maintain hype. He just is like he just has it. Like he can just do whatever he wants and just drop however he wants. And
like he disappears for
storyteller.
like, what was it, 6 years, and then he comes out with a double album, and he's like, it's like new stuff. Listen to it. Like,
Yeah.
there's no interviews. You don't see him everywhere. He just disappears again.
yeah.
It's great. Yeah, Kanye.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
Controversial probably these days because he went quite off rails, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, but you got to look at his whole time though. Like you can't
His
just
entire
compare
catalog.
now.
His back catalog is like insane.
Yeah.
It's classics and classics.
So
Definitely.
well written.
It wouldn't be list without like Tupac, right?
Yeah.
I grew up on that. That's my first foreign like English like encounter with hip hop is Tupac.
100%.
So
yeah,
he's always gonna be there as one of the biggest for me.
Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah.
So that's my top 3. I know I missed Biggie,
that's a
but
solid.
I got introduced to Biggie a bit later, so
that's all right. West Coast.
Yeah.
West Coast. That's how I started off. Like more like that West, like that NWA, that Bone Thugs and Harmony. They were led by Eazy-E. Like, yeah, that attracted my ear a little bit more. I think Luke was a little bit more into like Wu-Tang and
Common.
Noriega
I'm like, Common.
Yeah,
Common, Pusha,
all my
Tupac.
friends were into Wu-Tang as well. Like the whole Hungarian hip hop is basically like the Wu-Tang sound. Like trying to replicate, but I was always like, in fact, first thing I've started listening was French hip hop.
Interesting.
So we were into that. That's how we tried to make like a bit different sound from everyone else, like trying to follow French bands like I Am and like
don't know that.
Yeah, it was great. Anyways, I didn't understand nothing. I didn't understand the word, but it was great.
As long as there's a flow and the beat is on point, and
that cadence.
If you can resonate with that, then that should be good enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right, let's come back to being self-taught and kind of learning all these things as you go. Like, obviously, you weren't making money at that point. You love art for the sake of art. So how did you go about giving yourself enough time to practice and to really understand and hone in on your craft while you still needed to pay the bills? Like, how did that happen? How did you achieve it? And how are you currently doing it?
Well, it's pretty much the same story still than it was back then, because I'm still paying bills and like tied to my real life job. So it's just no sleep, mate. It's like no sleep at all. That's how you do it. That's the secret to short life and like long art hours. But in all honesty, I was just like, it was back in the days where internet wasn't that widespread. Like back in Hungary, I haven't even had money to pay for internet. So I was just going to the library. I was working in this supermarket. So for example, I was doing 6 till 2 shifts. So after 2, I finished, I grabbed sandwich to eat or something. Then I went to the library and then I was reading up on like old masters and like perspective and techniques. And yeah, I'm like, should try like oil or acrylics, but I haven't even got money to buy paint, so I'm just gonna keep studying and like drawing with charcoal. So I was copying a lot from books and all that. But yeah, so either that or I was on afternoon shift 2 till midnight, 2 till 10. Yeah, 2 till 10 it was back then. So I went before work, I went in a bit earlier to the city and then went to the library again and like checking stuff again. And then on weekends, I met up with the friends I mentioned, who was in art school. So he put down a chair. He's like, okay, draw this chair. Like in perspective. And he's like, what are you doing? Like really strict, that really strict kind of uni kind of education. I'm like, don't make like, just handle me like you would if I would be a stranger.
Yeah.
You want to like teach me how to do this. So that teaches me a lot of like perspective and the rules and composition and how to measure stuff.
Awesome.
And right now it's pretty much the same. I'm like, I get an 8-hour job. I either work like 8 till 4 or 4 till midnight. So before that or after that, I've got a couple hours when I'm doing art, and my fiance is kind enough to like tolerate that I'm spending time away from our daughter and her and like just into art and in the zone. And then yeah, I'm lucky that way that she's super supportive and she's an artist herself, so that helps a bunch.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's obviously Luke and I are on the same page, so we can definitely identify with what you're saying, and we can relate.
Yeah, it sounds like from what you were saying, I was just gonna say, it sounds like what you were saying earlier when you would like pull over the truck and like, draw a quick sketch. It sounds very much like you're very much like the both of us, like thoughts are progressing constantly, even though you may not be in front of the tools that you need to like make them. But at the same time, they're progressing. So by the time you get to that tool, it's like, yeah, let's go kind of thing, because
let's just make 20 versions.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a process, but yeah, that's how it is. When I'm there, I'm thinking constantly of what I'm doing next, how this is gonna look, what I'm gonna put in it, making notes. I've got like 500 notes in my phone, like this portrait, what I need, like a checklist of what else I need. Like it's
so it seems like when you're not working, you're doing art, and when you're not doing art, you're working. So
yeah,
what do you do to kind of like decompress, or just have a vapor day, a day just for yourself? Like, do you do anything outside of that? Because obviously we're both dads, and 3 of us are dads, so like social life declines by default. You don't get to catch up with your friends or go out as much. But for artists, well, 3 of us are also artists, and we probably figure things out differently. But I guess for you, like, how do you kind of maintain your balance or your equilibrium when it comes down to trying to balance everything out? What's your go-to to relax?
So, well, it's up till like portrait 10, there was nothing. There was just art all the time. There was no like off, like pedal to the metal and I'm like pushing. But then like just before the 10th, I realized that I'm just dying. I'm like, I don't have time, I don't have rest, I'm not getting enough sleep. It's just art and I can't recharge. So that's when we pretty much, when we unwind, it's series. We're watching some series, like cuddled up on the bed, or just play some video games. Cosmic is playing out on the TV. I join her in Apex on the PC.
Nice.
We kill some noobs, letting off the steam. Like, I realized I needed it and I missed it, because if you just do these 2 things, there is burnout like just around the corner. Always.
100%, man. 100%.
Definitely.
Cool. All right, let's get into your art a little bit, because looking at your catalog, you've done quite a bit, man. Like you got human art, the portraits, and then you've got noir. Is it noir? Noir? Am I pronouncing it right?
Noir. Yeah.
Noir. Beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Noir. So kind of talk us through each of them and kind of what you were looking to achieve with them.
Okay, so I start with the most recent drop, Noir.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much started as like I had this live stream on Twitch in 2019, early 2020, like just when the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a way to like for me to connect with artists. That was the first time I was reaching out that, hey, I'm an artist, come and chat, you know. Like before that, it was just me in my room drawing stuff and then putting it on Instagram to get 3 likes. But then I was like, you know what, I want to be more social. I need to reach out and like get to know people. So I did that, but I've started with 3D, and then I realized, oh, that might be too technical to look at in like a live stream setting, because there's a lot of like, you know, putting in data and like, oh, scaling this, scaling that. So I figured that why don't I do like portraits, just like put a picture down and just copy the picture like with one brush, like a square brush, like a pixel brush, but huge. And no zoom, no color picker, just, you know, instinct. So Noir is like the child of that, because I used those portraits. I've done it for 30 days.
Yeah, wow.
And now I used up all the portraits that were usable from back that era. So basically it started like, okay, let's see how would these look like if I would like touch them up with the knowledge I got today, like a bit more graphic style, a bit more poster design style. And that's how the first ones, those really noisy, like simple, like photocopy style illustrations came around. And then I'm an overthinker, so it always has to go like sideways, and I'm always like, oh, how do I build on this? How do I make this next level? So from the first drop, I was writing this little like sci-fi noir story about like a runaway AI in the descriptions. So right now with that series, I'm going towards like 9 pieces left, so 3 drops. And I'm going towards the conclusion. So since I ran out of drawings, I'm gonna do like brand new ones that actually like finish in the story of that I started in the description about this runaway AI and like consciousness and what consciousness means. So that's what's coming with that.
Are you developing those stories yourself as well, or are you having someone to kind of give you a hand with trying to set
No, I'm doing it myself. Probably that's why it's so amateurish. But
it's not,
you know,
man.
I'm proud of it. It's like coming from my brain, so
absolutely,
you know, it's a piece of me always.
I can't wait to see the new ones, because the old ones, like just thinking about what you were saying, like because you're using old drawings with new design skills, but now you're going to make new drawings with your new skills plus the new graphic skills. I can't wait to see these new ones. I'm going to have my Phantom wallet loaded and ready for those ones for sure.
I hope it's going to worth the wait. It's going to take longer between drops now because obviously I'm working from scratch, but I hope it's going to worth it. I've got really good, like really clean ideas of where it's going and what's going to happen.
Awesome.
That
amazing.
I wrote down while I was driving at work.
Perfect.
So the next one, let's talk about portrait, the other active one right now, which it's almost been a month since I dropped the last one. So I think it's
portrait,
about...
Sorry, just before you continue, I think portrait is probably like your flagship collection.
It's the one I put like the most into it, the most thought, and like the most planning and execution is like I'm always trying something new, so it's always very involved. And yeah, that's coming up for the 13th mark. So that has 7 more left.
Yeah. Wow. So talk
from
us
the
through the portrait
series.
a little bit as well. Like what's the thinking behind it? What are you trying to relay? What are you trying to communicate to people or your potential collectors?
So portraits is basically, it's the role play. It's saying that I am the sculptor and I only got these many things at home I can make this sculpture from. And I just want to, like, get my feelings out.
Yeah.
So like it's a bit like self-portraits. They all of them a little bit of self-reflection in them. That's why if you check the descriptions, there's always like a secondary title like portrait of the glutton or portrait of the introvert, or there's always a secondary title. So it was this kind of like this amateur sculpture. The first one is like, oh, just home he's throwing stuff together, like, and he calls it a sculpture basically. And I wanted to like show this progression, like not just in like getting to know myself more as I dig deeper, but also like, oh, he's like developing, like technically he's getting better at like sculpting. This sculptor, this, let's call him a nameless sculptor, is like in his garage, is like improving. He's reading up probably on
That's
materials.
cool, man. That's cool.
And then the look always like has something to do with the secondary title, like the minimalist. It's like I try to follow the rules of minimalism and like the materials they use for buildings. And right now I'm more like that point after 10, when I felt like, okay, this sculptor now, he knows himself enough and he knows his craft enough that he can do like pretty good sculptures probably.
That's awesome.
So I was like, I'm gonna move towards more like they becoming more human, like more with more emotion, more like intimacy. They leaning in towards you, and like the smoke is moving and all that.
I love that one, man. I love that one with the cigarette. Yeah.
Oh, that's just started as a joke. I said it, I think, in Spaces. That it's my signature now, but it started like this joke that I was like, oh, what if this sculptor is like smoking and he's like, something's missing from this, so he's just like putting a cigarette and lights it up in the mouth of the sculpture, and it's like this, sarcasm, like, oh, he's not alive, he's just a sculpt, but he's smoking.
Yeah.
So
I think that's one of my favorites, actually. The one with the cigarette and kind of the smoke just slowly rising.
It adds such nice movement to the pieces. That my favorite is the one with the bird. That piece with the bird at the top
is cool.
I don't know if I ever gonna top that. That was like, I still think back and I'm like, I don't know how I did that. Like it just happened somehow. It's a happy accident. I write it down. So
for sure,
and
man.
then now I'm moving towards like, it's pretty much like bad vibes and bad emotions so far. The series looks a bit like, goth. Like I'm a bit of a goth. So the last 5 will be more like the positive attributes and like a bit more, cheerful side. And like we're getting close to the core, like he's digging deeper, and then he's like, oh, I've got good qualities here. This is the foundation. Like I'm a home builder. I'm stable. I'm a creative. And like all these ideas are still yet to come. So
that's cool, man.
That has an end point as well. So I'm not planning them to like go indefinitely, because I can't pay attention for indefinitely.
Well, that's the thing I like about your art, man. It's just that you look at the story, it's consistent when you look at it in a retrospective way. When you look at the latest piece and you look back, you're like, yeah, of course, I can follow it. I can understand the series. But whenever your most recent piece of art drops, you're like, what the fuck? What is this? like, where did this come from? You know, it's amazing. But
I'm
it's
glad you
like,
say that. It's
it just like,
important
it
for
makes
me.
like your mind kind of just like, you've got, it kind of mind fucks you for a little bit. It's like, whoa, 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 hold on. Like, am I looking at this thing properly? Like, it's always like a second take. You look at it, and you're like, no, hold on, let me
Yeah.
have a look again to see what am I looking at, you know? Let me like understand it a little bit, because it's the different layers and the different textures and stuff like that. Yeah, so every single time you drop something or you drop it in one of the DMs that we're in, it gets me excited. I'm like, yep, like, share, let me understand what the hell this is. And then whenever I've had questions, I'll just kind of hit you up and kind of just to understand a little bit more about it. Yeah, it's awesome, man. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next few drops from you for portrait. Human art. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, this is one of my favorites that you've produced as a collection. It's an incorporation of music, movement, color, textures, kind of all mashed up into one thing to like set a scene, like an end-to-end scene. Although it's like it's quite short, yes, like a 10-second, 7 seconds. How long is each one?
I think the war one is like 20 seconds, maybe. It's
Yeah,
very
okay.
like, it's all compressed together.
Yep.
So you need to watch a couple of times so you understand what you just watched.
Yeah.
So that's the idea.
Dude,
Like a
that one
skit, like
there.
an MTV skit or something, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still watch that one and I crank it up a little bit because the music is so intense. It's just like, what is this, like Soviet times? Is it like World War II? Like, what's going on? It's just total chaos. And then you just see that
Yeah.
little star thing rising. It's like, oh man, what the hell? But coming back to that particular collection, do you talk us through your process? Because I don't want to make any assumptions and kind of put my foot in it. So maybe just talk us through that a little bit, and then I can ask you questions.
So yeah, that started like, I just wanted something. It always starts like that. I want something light, something not that intense to make, just with the main line, which was portraits, right? And
Yeah.
then basically what I think the second one, Big Brain, bought that, and Papa Mumu was asking me that, what is this series? Can you describe it? And I told him, I think it still describes it the best. It's as if a mad scientist is like cutting stuff together, trying to figure out what makes a human human. And he starts with like looks, like, oh, I'm cutting eyes, I'm cutting this, I'm trying to draw it. So that's like the first piece and the second piece. And then he's like, oh, let me see if I photocopy this. Is it still a human, or does it still look like a human? And then he photocopies it, but it's still no human. So he's like, starts to move on. As I said to him as well, that it's going to become technically more advanced as he's digging into this. I always like to think of it like, this person does this, and then this is the documentation. The art is documentation of what this person is doing. So that's how it became this monster it is now, with music and experimental. I still experiment a lot. And then it turned to this like, okay, so it's not just a look. So there are faults, there are like strengths a human has that makes up that human. There is a consciousness. So this is going towards that, like, what is consciousness, and then how you step forward from that point. When you got a human, you got the looks, you got the brain, you got the consciousness. It's like, what else there? Is there anything else? Is there an ascension where everything goes? Are we all heading to a place, or is it just indefinitely this loop? So that's what the series is asking with these animations now. So it's just gonna keep getting more like deeper and deeper, more abstract probably as we're getting into it.
Man, you're gonna drain my wallet, man. Like,
for sure. I'm getting excited for the next one. Did you find
that's
that
on a
experiment?
hiatus now? Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, do you find that experimentation helps boost your other collections? Like, is that experimentation the sort of playground where you can like refine styles, find new styles, and bring them into your other sort of quests?
Yes, I feel so, especially with I think Human 3, I started this photocopy style that had a huge impact in the noir stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all had a huge impact on the portrait stuff because I started to incorporate elements from that.
Mm.
And then the participation NFTs are like pretty much like a noir piece, like a portrait noir mixture.
Mm-hmm.
So it of course I learn new stuff and I learn new techniques, and I'm pretty obsessive about stuff. So I'm like, oh, I'm obsessed about this technique or this tool or this app, like 3D code. I'm making these really rough sculpts in. So I'm obsessed with that. So I'm like trying to put as much of it in as I can.
Awesome,
So
man.
it's it always leaves an imprint on other series.
Yeah. Just coming back to the human art stuff, because obviously it's like a mini movie trailer, you know? There's a scene and you try to like evoke some sort of an emotion or some sort of like you're trying to get some sort of a statement put out by it. Do you sit down and kind of like storyboard it first, or is it kind of just freestyling? Like, yeah, cool. You have an idea, and then you kind of just keep building on it and you keep creating as the idea is developing, or do you already have it kind of set in stone and you kind of put it down first and then you work on it? How does something like that work? How do you go about it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have with that series, I have to be a bit more like I have to plan ahead a bit more because there are scenes that have to blend together and the whole thing has to loop around somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got like a main motif, like the war or time or these kinds of things. And then I'm like, how do I describe this the best visually? And I come up with like a main motif, like how the tank turns into the pigeon and comes up from the molten like liquid. And then I just sit down and I write down scene 1, this is what's happening. Scene 2, this is what's happening. And then these scenes correspond with my blend files and all that stuff I'm working from. And then one blend file, one scene, basically. It doesn't matter if there are 20 versions, it's still that one scene.
Yeah.
And then I make the lights all similar or like very same, so they all go together. And then I write down in the plans the assets I need. I need a character that's like T-pose because it has to kick in the door, and I have to like rig it and animate it. And then like I need to think forward, like how much polygons, what polygon count I want to do, because I can't just throw like 100 millions of polys on my PC and then try to rig it and animate it, and then
Shit will just crash.
catastrophe.
Yeah.
Like my portraits, that's always happens somehow with it.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I've asked you a lot of questions about it before, but I think it's really cool hearing it live like this in a way where we're able to have like a face-to-face conversation, because you just learn so much more about the art, but then you also have more buy-in. Like I'm so much more invested into that piece, although like I got it a few months back, Also, I think we're starting to wrap up. We also don't want to take up too much of your morning, but one of the questions that I'd love to ask people that we talk to is, what do you want to be known for as an artist? So if someone was to talk about you 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how do you want them to describe you? What sort of legacy do you want to kind of like leave behind?
Ooh, that's a huge question.
It is, man. It is.
I want to be known for like paving the way for other like-minded people, like think more in depth of what they doing, and art is their life, and art is what they want to do. And they like, maybe working a 9 to 5, maybe working in a factory, and maybe that's their only dream, to like, oh, maybe I can draw, I'm pretty good at it, maybe if I just do this, then I can make it, I can make my life better, or I can better myself, or get away from whatever shit is happening with me. So it would be amazing to be known for like, oh, he inspired because he did the same. He's got something from nothing, he made the connections, so that's something that inspires me to move towards. When I'm down, I always think of like, making it out, making it, and like just creating. And then I hope that motivates others as well. I hope it rubs off.
For sure.
It makes you think how many other people are kind of stuck in mundane jobs, or jobs just to pay the bills, when they've got a hidden talent that they haven't even scratched the surface with. It really makes you think about it a little bit, and for me, it almost upsets me. Like if I see someone just doing like road construction, or like holding on to that lollipop, that slow down, stop, but they could be an amazing fucking artist, but they're just stuck doing that because they need to, there's commitment, they need to do that. But imagine in another lifetime where if they spend that time producing their art, whatever that might be, like how crazy would that be? Like, different lights.
It's hard because when you got the mundane things and you need to take care of things, it's easy to say, oh, I don't have time, I just quit. But it would be awesome to just talk to them all and tell them that don't quit. It's always worth pursuing. Your dream should be out there, and you should always going towards, no matter how hard it is. It's what makes life worth living, not the the telly stuff in the telly, your favorite show that goes at 8, or the news. It's insignificant to the grand scheme of things. The imprint you leave behind is what builds culture and what builds future, not the series on the telly. So yeah, for sure, man, for sure, definitely. All right, man, look, we've taken up too much of your what date is it over? Tuesday, isn't it? Tuesday morning? Yeah, it's Tuesday 11:30.
Yeah, and it's our 8:30 Wednesday night over here.
Oh man, it's bedtime for the kids, huh?
Oh, kids are already asleep.
We both skipped that. Yeah, we're actually both in Omar's office right now, so we're in the same place, we're just in different rooms, because we've learned before in the same room it will like echo and stuff. But yeah, no, we've skipped all that, so we might get some burgers after this and just
That's so cool. Enjoy your burgers.
Dude, we couldn't thank you enough. Obviously, we've tried a few times to make sure that our times aligned and with your work and our work and stuff. So, and given the different time zones, so we appreciate you. We thank you so much. Putting a voice, a face, story to the art makes your art that much more special, and it makes me want to kind of invest a little bit more in your story, just in terms of trying to understand it a little bit more. But also, Luke and I, outside of our NFT world, like 9 to 5, like brand, user story, all that stuff, like that's our go-to, so it just like, yeah, if we can help in any way, we would love to do that. But anyways, that's not the story here. I'm just really inspired by hearing what you've said, and I'm sure Luke would echo the same. 100%. Just your entire persona, like the fucking tape in the back, your glasses, everything. Like, I love your whole brand, I love your whole look.
I had to represent it, but for the goodbye, I'm gonna take it off because I feel like I'm cross-eyed because I taped one eye. That was a really bad idea.
Yeah, man. No,
I won't even show my eyes. I think I'm ruined for life.
It was
worth it though, for like an hour, so that's some serious commitment.
It looked good though. It was definitely
worth
it.
Sweet,
Yeah,
man.
thanks, guys.
Before we let you go, plug yourself in. Let us know where we can find you, different platforms. Just go for it.
You can find me on Formfunction at Vaper. You can find me on Twitter at someone from Spacer. And you can find me on exchanges, Vaper as well. And I've got collabs coming out, and I've got new portrait coming out. I've got something coming out. You know how it is.
Yes.
100%.
Yes, absolutely.
I've got Cosmic collab coming out.
Oh,
So that's
oh.
something. Collab with your fiance. So yeah.
crazy.
That'll be cool to see.
Yeah.
Definitely. You got to stop outbidding me on her pieces as well. You keep outbidding me.
I'm sorry. I'm a big fan of her art as well. She
A
came
man
a
has
long
to do
way.
what a man has to do, man.
Yeah.
Just before we let you go, the name Vaper. I've already heard that story, but it'd be good for our podcast audience to learn a little bit more about that before we let you go.
Yeah, so pretty much. Well, if I could take this camera and show you my cupboard, it's still full of vape stuff.
Yeah,
Got
wow.
like 10 vape mods, tanks, juice, everything.
Wow.
I was a smoker.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I moved to the UK, it happened somehow. I was a good boy before. I moved to the UK on my own, and then it ruined me. So yeah, I switched to vaping, and then last September, I quit. But kind of the name just was, it stuck.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I thought I roll with it because why not?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
So
yeah.
it's so distinctive, and even the font that you've chosen on your Twitter handle, not Twitter handle, your Twitter name is just like you can't miss you. Like
Yeah.
you can't. Yeah.
Yeah, try. That's the thing I learned in NFTs branding. It's a huge thing apparently. So yeah,
For sure.
100%.
100%.
important.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much, man, for joining us, and thank you to your fiance for allowing us to take some of your time. I'm sure this time could be spent with her, but please send her our thanks for letting you sit with us and have a chat. We've had a blast. Definitely the more favorite episodes out here because it's a bit more wild than our usual ones. So yeah, I'm loving it, and we can't wait to release it and share it with our audience and NFT and non-NFT people. I'm sure everyone's going to pick up gems from it and really understand your points of view and get inspired as well.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a really cool experience. So everyone who's shy like in front of a camera or a mic and getting invited, I encourage you guys, just come and chat. It's chill.
Very much so.
Awesome. Definitely. Thank you again. Thank you so much. Thank you for setting up all your background, everything is just on point. Talking about branding, it's just so on point.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything. It was so much fun. I never spoke this much about my stuff before. So yeah.
That's good to hear, man. Awesome. Thank you.